Welcome to the MVP show. Today we're here with André all the way from the Netherlands. When I say all the way, only because I'm at the bottom of the world and he's at the top of the world. Anyhow, he has 20 years experience across the Microsoft Dynamics Finance suite of products, whether it's now Vision, AX, Dynamics 365. He has experience across them, so incredible depth of knowledge. Full show notes for this episode can be found at nz365guy.com/199. Now let's get on with the show. André, welcome to the MVP show.
Thank you, Mark. I'm happy to be here.
Good to have you here. So you're all the way from the Netherlands, is that right?
That's correct.
Yeah, when I say all the way, it's just because I'm at the bottom of the world, and of course you're at the in the northern hemisphere. What's special about today? What's happening in the Netherlands today?
Well, apart from the corona, which is a worldwide pandemic, today in the Netherlands, our king has his birthday. So actually, it's King's Day, but it's a very different one compared to all the others we had in the past, because this one was a bit online and everyone should stay at home. But the weather was a bit too good, so a lot of people went out, just a bit walking and enjoying the sun.
So what normally happens with King's Day? Like I've seen photos and it looks like, on the canals, they're all loaded with people on boats and everybody's wearing orange. And what's the normal celebrations like for King's Day?
Well, in fact, a lot of people will go to Amsterdam just for a party. And indeed, what you see the picture on the canals, that's using that's on the King's Day, but also when we have some other celebrations, a lot of people like to go to Amsterdam. There's a lot of live music then, but actually, usually the king and his family will visit two places in the Netherlands, just with a tour, and then they will get some culture of those cities, and also play around with people, shaking hands, and just enjoying their day.
Wow. Okay, so how has today been celebrated differently? Because it's at the end of your day there, right? Am I right?
That's correct. It's now 10:30 p.m. So, but what was different? To be honest, I didn't think that much about the King's Day today, just because it was a kind of all on your own, and I was also a bit tired. It was also due to some intensive work last week.
So how are you handling COVID-19? How is it affecting, do you think, people in the Netherlands and yourself specifically?
If you compare to the other worlds, other parts of the world, then we're still a free country. The advice is stay home as much as possible. Also, well, as we're an IT company, we are able to work from home. A lot of using online meetings, using Teams, etc. The most difficult part for me is actually being at home with also 3 children. They also have to do their schools. They're on 3 different schools, three different type of work, and also in between a lot of noise. So it's not very relaxing to be at home.
So what age group are your children across?
Well, my oldest daughter, she's 17. She already has her driver's license. So it's a small headache, but that's she's doing okay. And I have 2 boys. One is 13 years old, almost 14, and one boy of 10 years.
Okay, so quite a spread. And how are they faring through this whole COVID-19?
Well, they want to go out. They want to just go back to school to have their normal lives back. But they're also a bit of trying to avoid people on the street, and it's a bit difficult. And we try to be listening, but on the other hand, when we are able to go out for a walk, then we do it, seeing nobody for hours.
Yeah, no, makes sense. Tell me, what area, you've been an MVP for what, how many years now?
For 6 years.
Wow. Okay. And so what area do you specialize in?
The area I'm focused on mostly is the Dynamics 365 for finance and operations. In the past, I did some consulting and solution architecture work, and as of a year now, I'm a product manager.
And have you did you set out to always have a career in the Dynamics or AX space, or is it something that you kind of evolved into? How did you actually start your career in the space?
Well, then we can go to 1996. Then I just finished my study. Then an aunt saw an advertisement in a newspaper with just 3 lines. You're looking for someone who can do some commercial work for a software company. That was a company in my own town. I thought, well, just have a chat with them, and they hired me. And then they had their old legacy solutions based on COBOL Progress. It was for property management, some finance, and more on the textiles. And 2 weeks later, they signed a contract with Navation Financials in the Netherlands to become a Navation Financials partner. I did that for about 4.5 till 5 years, knowing that application from inside out. And in 2001, I moved over to at that time, Axapta partner in the Netherlands. And since then, I never left that product anymore. So that's already 19 years now.
Wow, that's incredible. That's incredible.
Yes.
So
when I think of it, yes, it's
it's a
too
long time
already. Yeah. Yes.
So good, so good. What was your journey then? Kind of like, what changes have you seen over that period of time with the product and your experience with the product?
Well, if you look at 2001, then Damgaard and Navision joined together. In 2003, then Microsoft took over, and they initially did hold on in releasing version 4. They had to do a lot of patching on security and some stability on that product. What I've seen then is that they tried to align with the Office standard for the look and feel. Look at AX4, that was the first one a bit branded by Microsoft. It should look a bit like the Outlook client. To be honest, I hated that version. But already quickly they released AX 2009, which was still a bit of evolvement and not really their own product. But starting with AX 2012, then you noticed really that they aligned with all kind of teams internally, like SQL for the performance part, more on the other tools like the SSRS reporting server, and later on also with Power BI and all kind of embracing the whole Microsoft stack, which continued to evolve when it became Dynamics 365 as a real cloud solution.
So you're predominantly working in cloud-based implementations now?
I try to think only of the cloud, but as an ISV, we also sell the products still on AX 2012, but also on for customers having still the preference or a need for the on-premise versions. So we have to ensure that also the solutions we build on top of Dynamics 365 will also continue to work on the on-premise versions. And that's sometimes a bit challenging, as we always think, well, the code base should be the same, but there are some minor changes and differences sometimes. And the biggest change, for example, is the way how to do the user authentication, which is for the cloud-based, it's just the Azure Active Directory, and for the on-premise version, then you have to link to the Active Directory Federation services.
Mm-mm-mm. Interesting, because, I come very much from the CRM side of things, and that was the same experience there. The authentication was often some of the most complicated part of it when you differentiated between online and on-premise. So, as a ISV, and in your case, a product manager, what's your experience as a product manager? Kind of what does your day-to-day role look like in managing an ISV solution?
Now, when I started, that was a year ago. Then I started to increase managing the products for the business integration solutions and mobility solution. Um, it was just like a roller coaster because initially I thought I have to learn the products more in depth. I was a bit aware of them already based on the customer and more the partner side, but I needed to know more in depth. But instead of getting that time, I was directly involved in all kind of sales cases, product questions, and hardly got the time to even get up to speed. But in between, I'm almost there. Um, and just looking now at what are the changes and the signals around us as a company, where's Microsoft heading? Um, we have to also a bit embrace more some talks with the customers, but that's also something I will work on in the coming period to see what are their requirements, where are the gaps, and then see how can we expand the products or even try to see if there are some white spaces where we can introduce some new products.
Mm, mm. Interesting. So the products that you have at the moment, what do they specifically do, or who's the target audience for them?
What we have today is some industry solutions which I'm not managing. Some other people are doing that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
The manufacturing for the rental and the food. But we are talking about finance operations as part of my knowledge, but we also have solutions for Business Central. And food is on the Business Central. And apart from that, we also have some horizontal applications like the business integration solutions. That's more kind of connectivity platform for both NFV Business Central, but also the AX and the finance operations. The same is valid for the Anywhere, which is the mobility for more the warehousing. We also have some retail on it. And I forgot two things. We do also have solutions for BPM and Security and Compliance Studio. And those two solutions are namely created in finance operations, but we're now also looking at options to have some more application independency for
Interesting. So tell me about your journey to becoming an MVP.
back in 2010. I joined a company in the Netherlands after just being for about 1 year employed at a construction company. I wanted to go back to the partner world, and there I met one of my colleagues. He was an MVP, great guy, Dick Wenning is his name. And when we were working over there, then 2 years later in 2012, someone asked, "Well, do you guys want to help me building up another company in the Netherlands, just providing consultancy services?" Uh, that's okay. And then I asked my colleague, "Well, why is it that always some technical people are an MVP and why not functional?" He said, "Well, actually, there are functional people, and what you should do is do some speaking events, answering questions on the forum." But I was already doing that, and probably a bit more. But he said, "Well, if you continue like this, I think you might make it, and probably at the end of the year, I can see if I can nominate you, yes or no. And then just in June, I already got and to fill out a form for on the request of Microsoft, and I was nominated by someone, but I checked my colleague and it wasn't him. They said, "Well, then you earned it yourself." There was just a nomination, so then awaiting the 1st of October. Luckily, I got also the email that Microsoft awarded me as an MVP. I was started answering some questions, but I didn't do the whole year something, but they already picked me up, and since then I didn't stop. Just try to blog more, still answering questions on the Dynamics community. And since about a half a year, I also try sometimes a YouTube movie.
What impact has it had on your career becoming an MVP?
If you look at impact on my career, not really. I think it might be easier to move to another company because everyone would like to have an MVP employed. That's one thing. But I personally do it more just like I love to help the community, and it's not that I would really like to extend it if that there will be a decision by Microsoft. There are other guys who earn more than you today, then it would also be okay with me. But I don't think it's really impacting my career because it's also a few months back someone a recruiter contacted me and he said, "Well, there's a company and we know you're MVP and we thought you might be interested if we say you can spend about 1/3 of your time on the community and the other part on just your daily work." Because you're allowed to do that because we think it's marketing. And then I said, "Well, okay, this was the end of our conversation." Because it's I think it should be just an additional for my own spare time, just on the community, and not pleasing a company by acting as a marketing machine. That's not my vision of being an FP. That's not me.
And so, where are most of your contributions nowadays? Like, I assume it's changed over time, but when Microsoft looks at your individual contributions, what's your strengths when it comes to contribution area?
The things I do, I think the most I do is answering questions on the Dynamics community. Questions for finance, supply chain, a bit sometimes commerce, but also some human resources. And then second place, I think the blogging parts. I try to create also some YouTube movies, but it's not my native language. And when I record it should be perfect. And then for 5 minutes video, I think I spent about 3-4 hours. it's that's a bit hard. But I try to create some of them because I also like to do that. Doing some speaking events for the 365 Saturdays, and also for when possible and allowed by my employer. I also do some speaking on AXUG, for example, or some local events. And mostly when there's a local event, it's in the evening, so that then I can combine it. But when there's an event like the Dynamics 365 User Group Summit, then those type of events, I should align it with the employer.
So, what do you enjoy most about being an MVP?
In fact, meeting all kind of other people, other MVPs, but also sometimes going to events and meet persons from Microsoft, interacting a bit more. I think that's the most valuable part of it. It's also meeting other persons around the world and sharing some thoughts.
Okay, are you ready for some quickfire questions? These are random questions now. It's been interesting hearing about your journey and
Okay. Well, I'm not sure if I'm ready because it's quite late here. It's not my native language. So.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And if any of these that you don't have an answer, you can just pass on them. That's no problem at all.
Oh, that is so easy. Okay.
Okay, here we go. What was your first car?
The first car, it was a Ford car.
A Ford?
A Ford car, a very small one.
I was thinking, did I have to change a question to what was your first bicycle?
Oh, that I don't know. I think it was a very small one with some extensions to be stable. But I don't know the brand. No, that's too long ago.
Okay. Would you rather save money or save time?
I think save money. I'm Dutch.
That is classic. That is classic. What are some of your personal rules that you refuse to break?
I think I'm striving for being a kind of perfectionist, doing everything perfect, and it's quite hard for me to sometimes say good is good enough.
No, that's good. That's good. What's your favorite family tradition?
Well, I think more the birthday celebrations. If you look at the Easter and the Christmas.
Here's your final one. If you could solve one problem in the world, what would it be?
Well, today it will be the COVID-19 for us.
Yeah, that's top of mind, isn't it? That's very top of mind. Andre, it's been great talking to you. Before we go, if people want to connect with you on social media, where can they find you?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn, also a bit on YouTube. I'm on Twitter, and you can also find me almost every day on the Dynamics community.
Hey, thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed this episode of the MVP Show with another great MVP. Full show notes can be found at nz365guy.com/199. I'm your host, Business Applications MVP Mark Smith, otherwise known as NZ365 Guy. See you next week.